Okay, there's some scratches. Won't buff out, so we're gonna wet sand those out. Get a little closer. There we go. Do a little video here. We're gonna set this up. You want to tape up here and get your seals so you don't get, when you wet sand or you buff, this is pretty good distance away from it, but you still always want to tape up anyway so you don't damage anything. But we're gonna go ahead and wet sand it. We're gonna use 1000 grit just to kind of get in there and start getting that scratches cut down some. And you want to use a little block too when you're doing it. You just kind of want to monitor it, get it wet. We're gonna wet sand this one. I like doing wet versus dry sanding. I'm gonna do a little hit here. You don't want to over sand either. You burn your clear coat, burn into the paint. I've seen a lot of people do that, so you want to be careful. We've been doing this a long time, so we know how far to go. Especially if you're dealing with aftermarket paint jobs, somebody's painted them before. You always want to be careful, because I always see them under coating, under clear them. You can start seeing that white coming off, and that's where you start cutting into there. Just using a square block. You can get it in any of your body shop stores and O'Reilly's and auto parts stores carry a lot of body stuff too, so they probably got different stuff, but we buy from our paint supplier. And you can definitely tell whenever it starts to cut down, they start going away. You want to dry it, take a look at the spot, make sure your area is clean from dirt. You don't want to be scratching it either as you're sanding it, because that will scratch the paint. So keep your area clean. If these scratches were too deep, the buffing it wasn't going to just take them away like all the other surface scratches were going away. This right here, see how it looks? Don't be afraid of that. Don't think that the paint won't come back out. It will, 100%. This is us just looking at it. And what I'm gonna do is hit it with a 2000 grit, and you could keep going 3000, 4000 grit, but my materials that I use, the 2000 grit will buff out real good. I mean, it looks like it pretty much took away everything. So we're gonna go ahead and hit it just a little more with 1000. You want to keep it wet too. You don't want to be there dry sanding it. Just keep it flat to the body panel so it sands it evenly. Now we're going to use the 2000. It's a 2000 grit. So that first one was 1000 grit. This is a softer. The higher the number goes, the softer grit. So the lower, the more coarse it is. More aggressive. Same thing as the other one, the 1000. You want to sand it. Make sure you're smooth and flat with the surface. The whole car's getting a paint correction done on it, so when they're deeper scratches like this, you want to attend to them with sanding them so you can take away those scratches, because if not, they're not going to go away by just buffing. The compound can only do so much, but once it's into the paint, that's where it's going to need help. All the compound and the buffing pad can do is bring out the finish, but it can't actually take away scratches that have cut into the paint. So this is where the wet sanding process comes in handy for the scratches. And you can see all that white, that's the clear. It's sanding out. That's with the 2000 grit. It's still a little wet because it's cold outside, so temperature's not drying as fast, but that's fine. Let's get a little bit closer there. There we go. Okay, now I'm gonna put some compound on there. We're gonna buff it. I use all 3M products too, so you definitely don't want to go cheap when it comes to material. We got a waffle foam pad. First pass. Also, when you're buffing, you want to put some little pressure on it, not too much. You don't want to burn the paint, but you want to get the pad heated up a little. So on to the third, and the car is getting fully buffed, so that's why I don't mind going a little extra area than I sanded. Another fourth coat. It's a small area, so it's really concentrated. Doesn't really need as much as I'm doing, but I'm just gonna go a little extra. to switch the pads. We were using that waffle. Now I'm going to use the soft pad. We're still going to use compound as well. This actually helps a lot. When it comes to black, you got to go a little extra steps just to make sure. We're going to go one more compound. And you can see that one is real friendly with the black. We use also a wool pad, but that one's very aggressive, but it does do a better job. This one, being that it's black, you want to be careful. And also for the video, you know, I'm just showing y'all, I don't recommend it if you're not experienced with it. I don't definitely recommend starting with a wool pad, because chances are you're gonna burn the paint. If you go to corners, or you go around door handles or anything like that, you will burn it, guaranteed. Not that you can't burn it with these, but you'll have a lot better chance with these pads that I've just showed you. The other ones, it takes us half a second and you burn. That's how quickly it happens. So give it a little wipe, take off the residue. Take off the dust. And this is just from the pad stuff coming off. Now we're going to switch the pad again. We're going to put some swirl remover, which is a polisher. Again, this one we're using Meguiar's swirl free. Also want to make sure you start out with some clean microfibers. Mine were all clean. I been buffing this cart since last night, so all my pads are all saturated, which is another thing. If you're going to start out doing it and you're starting with all brand new pads, you want to make sure you get them soaked and saturated in your compounds and material, because they'll start out dry and you also can burn that way too. So you'll know whenever they get wet, when they start buffing really well, and you'll see that you don't want to put too much material, because then you're going to be slinging it everywhere and you don't want to waste material more than you need. There's one other step I use. It's a machine glaze, but that one's just to basically finalize it. And it's the same exact process, and you can see that those scratches that were there is completely gone. Those were ones that were not coming out with buffing them. There you go. Any questions, let me know.